Video contains violent content, details that are not suitable for common perception. Please consider before watching. Chapter 250 Consort Ho 4. Ha! I'll turn you into a beast. The golden nine-tailed fox had long perfected a particular skill. It was to worm her way into the weakened hearts of humans, tempting and corrupting them. The male human body was remarkably honest to its instincts. More than just seeing direct physical contact skin to skin, was where they became truly vulnerable. Suk. She pressed her body against Mok Jae-eun, her full breast soft and yielding as they touched him. Ha! With one leg wrapped around him, she blew hot breath into his ear. Sound was another means of arousing a man. Usually by this point most males would have been unable to control themselves and would have lunged at her. Yet Mok Jae-eun remained unfazed. You're still holding out. He was at the age where his desires should be raging, but his patience was astonishing. Usually when a man's desire began to surface, she would penetrate his mind, amplifying his deepest desires. Once addicted to such desire, they would gradually fall into depravity. Not reacting even to this, but her stubbornness only grew. Smiling slyly, she leaned in closer. She had always used mental intrusion to show what she wanted, except for her first time corrupting a human long ago. Now she decided to change her approach. Lick. She licked his neck with her tongue, her hand sliding downwards. Her hand made contact with his manhood, stroking it gently to awaken his arousal. Fondle. She knew exactly how to handle a male. Caressing him with delicate hands, she tried to awaken the dormant desire within him. But, Schlick. Is this guy impotent? She had never encountered someone so unresponsive. He even looked at her with cold eyes as she carefully stimulated him. It felt as if she were dealing with a stone. Clearly he had repressed emotions. She hadn't expected him to hold out this long. Enough. Mok Jae-eun spoke to her coldly. Most women would have given up by now, feeling insulted by the lack of response. But the golden nine-tailed fox's determination only grew stronger. The more one controlled their emotions and desires, the faster and deeper they would fall into corruption. Let's see if you can withstand this. She smiled wickedly and brushed her palm over her face. In that instant, Sruk. The golden nine-tailed fox's face transformed into someone else's. Mok Jae-eun's eyes narrowed. It was Chong Ryung. Known for her shape-shifting abilities, the golden nine-tailed fox had transformed into Chong Ryung, indistinguishably perfect. Mok Jae-eun's eyes shifted. Unlike Wai So-yeon, the third mortal of the Heaven and Earth Society leader, who looked almost like a twin of Chong Ryung, this transformation was flawless in appearance and aura. Mortal. Ha! The golden nine-tailed fox, now in Chong Ryung's form, called him like she would. Looking at him with slightly unfocused eyes, a stark contrast to her usual seductive gaze. Flinch. This time he showed a slight reaction. Look at that. As expected, he was responding. Although Chong Ryung was undeniably a peerless beauty, the golden nine-tailed fox was even more perfect and beautiful. Yet Mok Jae-eun reacted to her. Noticing this, she intensified her efforts to provoke him. Mortal. Huh. I feel strange. Mok Jae-eun exhaled deeply. Being perceptive and different from others, he knew this was an illusion. The real Chong Ryung was weakened, lying just over there. But, soft. Mortal. Do something about me. Seeing her in Chong Ryung's form, her chest pressed against him with a desperate expression, his body began to react. This is a fake. Mok Jae-eun tried to maintain his rationality. But once his body started reacting, it was hard to control. The golden nine-tailed fox's eyes gleamed. Ha! He was far more endowed than she expected. She had seen countless males over the years. She could tell for sure. He was exceptional. Ah! This changes things. A sly excitement filled her eyes. She had planned to penetrate his mind the moment he showed desire, but now she felt an excitement she hadn't in a long time. Seeing him struggle within her embrace made her want to indulge him even more. Transformed into Chong Ryung, she pressed against him, feigning helplessness. Mortal. Ha! Mortal. Sit. As she caressed his cheek with one hand, a strange fragrance and spiritual energy seeped from her hand into his nose. Mok Jaeongun's eyes grew hazy. She whispered into his ear. Huh? Ravage me like a beast. No sooner had she spoken. Grab. Mok Jaeongun roughly grasped her lush hips, pressing his body against hers. Kung. Like a wild animal, his force made the golden nine-tailed fox in Chong Ryong's form moan. Ha! Hearing her moan in Chong Ryong's voice aroused him further. Feeling him become one with her, the golden nine-tailed fox's face flushed. Good. What female wouldn't enjoy this? Hurry. Hurry. She urged him, her voice low and demanding. Despite his wild push, he met her gaze and began moving slowly. Their faces were so close their noses almost touched, creating a charged atmosphere. Ha! What is this guy? She expected him to act purely on instinct under her influence, but he moved deliberately, gazing into her eyes with a dazed look. It made her more excited. Different. Despite being enthralled, he was different from other males. Her breathing grew heavy, turning into sensual moans. Hong. What began as a means of seduction had now become genuine excitement for her. Corrupting him could wait. But then an unexpected interruption occurred. Mortal. The real Chong Ryong, who had been nearly unconscious, started to recover some energy and witnessed the scene. Dash. Seeing this, she couldn't bear it even in her spirit form. She would have felt discomfort if the golden nine-tailed fox had seduced Mok Jaeongun with her real form, but seeing herself in the act infuriated and confused her. Mortal. You. Mok Jaeongun, with eyes clouded by lust, was gazing at the golden nine-tailed fox who looked exactly like her. He felt like she was the one engaged with him. Chong Ryong snapped out of her daze, feeling a peculiar mix of emotions. Yo! The golden nine-tailed fox was a monster who had seduced and corrupted countless men for thousands of years. If left unchecked, Mok Jaeongun would fall too. She gathered all her remaining strength and cried out. Mortal. Her cry resonated like a wave. If he were under the golden nine-tailed fox's spell, it might break him free. The golden nine-tailed fox sneered at this. Do you think he can wake up from my spell? Entranced by desire and instinct, there was no way he could break free. Oh. At that moment she noticed something. Mok Jaeongun had paused momentarily in response to the cry. This guy. Had he heard that in his current state? Chong Ryong shouted again. Mortal. Snap out of it. Par. At her continued cry, Mok Jaeongun's hazy eyes wavered. Seeing this subtle change, the golden nine-tailed fox clicked her tongue inwardly. She had infiltrated his heart by transforming into Chong Ryong, but the real one being so close seemed to affect him quickly. The golden nine-tailed fox sighed inwardly. What a pity. She gave up on enjoying herself further. His mental strength was far stronger than that of ordinary humans, making it difficult to enchant him consecutively. She grabbed his head with both hands, staring into his eyes. I'll completely enthrall you and make you mine. Suddenly, darkness enveloped Mok Jaeongun's vision, plunging everything into blackness. Human. Shall we take a look at where your fundamental desires stem from? The nine-tailed fox delved into Mok Jaeongun's mind, sifting through his memories. To corrupt him and make him completely hers, she needed to read the memories that held the root of his desires or potential weaknesses. Relatively recent memories appeared faintly like fragments, but this man more so than she initially thought. I like it. She had assumed this man was different from other humans. But his actions and thought processes seemed utterly detached from humanity. This was the first time she encountered a being who wasn't so much corrupted as innately close to evil and demonic energy. How have I not discovered such a man until now? She had long searched for an extraordinary being. It was because of a prophecy she heard during an amusement. Daji Yeo. No nine-tailed fox. Someday you will meet a human who is the embodiment of demonic energy itself. Human. How can a human be demonic energy itself? Didn't you say humans are incomplete beings, neither good nor evil? That's right. However, even this old man cannot fully comprehend all the secrets of heaven. Damn you. What's the point of telling me something you don't even understand well yourself? Find him. He will bring you what you have yearned for the most. What I desire he will bring to me. Is that true? It is. Then how can I meet him? With your vaunted ability to read the secrets of heaven, You should be able to know, right? I do not know. Then there's no other way. We have no choice but to keep fighting. Will things really turn out this way? You're the one who proposed this deal, claiming you'd reveal what I've desired. But do you think you can end this fight with such a vague story? After contemplating, he finally spoke. All this old man can see about that man is a throne stained with blood. Chapter 251, Demon 1. All this old man can see from that person is a blood-stained throne. A blood-stained throne. A throne is a symbolic seat for monarchs like kings, emperors, or feudal lords, is it not? What does it mean for a human who embodies the very essence of a demon to be connected to a throne? No, to be exact, it was called a blood-stained throne. Blood-stained. The throne symbolizing the pinnacle stained with blood held great significance. After all, countless bloody struggles would have taken place to claim that seat. Though the time period remained vague, these words definitely narrowed down the scope. It's not that old man Zhou. Although he completely degenerated, indulging in wine and women, how could that dying old man possibly fulfill her wish? In the first place, how could a mere human grant her desire? It was a mystery, but this man was practically a sage. He wouldn't speak nonsense. Let's hope your words prove true. With those words, the nine-tailed golden fox concealed herself through death and left the kingdom as a long time passed. At first, she simply observed to find the human from the prophecy. However, such a person did not appear. Suspecting that he might have deceived her, she took out her anger on all sorts of Taoist priests. Then she changed her mind. If she couldn't find him, she would create him herself. Thus, the nine-tailed golden fox altered her approach and playfully corrupted the beings called monarchs, one by one. This applied not only to the feudal lords of the Central Plains but also to all the nearby countries like Dongyi, Dongying, and Xizang. Nevertheless, none of them brought her what she desired. They merely degenerated and led their nations to ruin. A human who is the embodiment of a demon. Judging solely by this fellow's memories, he certainly comes close to evil or demonic. However, this guy had little to do with the throne. Then is he simply an inherently wicked human? If she delved to the end of his memories, she might uncover the origins of his evil nature. The nine-tailed golden fox dove into the depths of Mok Jiangun's mind. Swish. Quite an intriguing fragment flowed in among the incoming pieces. Oh ho. Look at this. Was that raccoon bastard here? That unworthy brat who pompously called himself the Kingslayer or whatnot was causing a ruckus. But to think he was trapped here. But did this guy absorb the raccoon's demonic energy? Memory fragments are literally like shards. They appear disjointed, but it seems the raccoon had part of his demonic energy absorbed by this fellow. What's this? How did a human absorb the energy of a demon beast? No, an Aimi Mangyang. Come to think of it, as she delved deeper into his memories, this guy was even absorbing the energy of the dead. How is this possible? In the first place, a living being cannot coexist with the energy of the deceased. The more she explored his memories, the more astonishing things appeared one by one. Is this really a human? While puzzled, she went back a long way and saw Mok Jiangun's deceased grandfather. For the first time she felt intense anger. This seemed to be the point where his suppressed evil erupted. However, since it was still repressed, she would need to examine earlier memory fragments to find the more fundamental part. Show me your origin. The nine-tailed golden fox delved into Mok Jiangun's memories. But while digging deeper, she encountered a colossal wall spanning the entire space within the darkness. The existence of such a wall within one's mind and memories signified that something was artificially blocking it. The nine-tailed golden fox grew intrigued upon seeing this. What could be the reason for sealing off his earlier memories? Whether he did it himself or it was a taboo imposed by someone else, she didn't know, but reveal yourself. The nine-tailed golden fox attempted to forcibly pierce through the wall of memories. For her, who had lived thousands of years, this was not a difficult task. Just as she was tearing down the wall of memories at that moment, Ruhar. Right then, from within the cracking and crumbling wall of memories, an atrocious and utterly evil energy began to surge out. What's this? As she tried to breach the sealed memories, why was such a wicked energy gushing forth? Is this fellow truly human? This ferocious energy was attempting to block her from infiltrating his mind. It felt as if this existence was alive within him. All right. Let's see who prevails. The nine-tailed golden fox drew upon more of her demonic energy. If it could block her to this extent, there must be something it didn't want to be seen. Did it think it could stop her like this? Swoosh. Although it was within his mind, the nine-tailed golden fox manifested in her original form. Her appearance as a nine-tailed golden fox reaching 7 zhang in size was majestic, befitting a great spiritual beast bearing the titles of Demon and King. 3. As she opened her mouth in her true form, vast demonic energy gathered, forming an enormous sphere. Whoosh. It was dazzling enough to illuminate the darkness. Try to stop this. Boom. Boom. The sphere of demonic energy instantly collided with the wall of memories. Intense explosions erupted in succession as the wall, struck by the energy sphere, collapsed, creating a massive hole. Not missing this chance, the nine-tailed golden fox entered through the hole. A breach had been made in the blocked memories. Now she could see what memory fragments would be revealed. At that moment, a bizarre scene began to unfold within the incoming fragments. It was crack. The sight of an intact sky distorting. Through the crevices of the distorting fissures, a mass of black flames surged upward like erupting volcanic lava and plummeted to the ground. What the hell is this? Why does such a scene exist within a mere human's memories? Right then another fragment flowed in. Swish. Within a vast pit, black flames were blazing fiercely, and someone was gazing at them with a face filled with awe, then promptly prostrated. That someone was none other than this fellow's murdered grandfather. Why was that old man showing such a reaction towards the black flames? As she wondered, what? The nine-tailed golden fox's golden pupils trembled violently. Within those black flames a gaze was felt. It wasn't just flames. No, in the first place, the ominous and pure energy emanating from those black flames did not exist in the human world. No words like ferocious, vicious, or evil could define it. It was as if the very existence itself was flinch. Right at that moment, the gaze felt from the black flames directly met the nine-tailed golden fox's eyes. This was a memory. Yet how could it be staring at her? She could be considered a third-party spirit merely observing the memories. As she found the situation incomprehensible and bizarre. Get out. A voice resounded within the nine-tailed golden fox. Simultaneously, the black flames suddenly spread in all directions, instantly engulfing the space filled with memory fragments within the darkness. Fwoosh. At that instant the nine-tailed golden fox couldn't hide her bewilderment. This heat should have been a memory fragment, but its intensity felt as if it had materialized. And the black flames were gradually encircling her. The nine-tailed golden fox spoke while gazing at them. Just what are you? How can an existence as foreign as you reside within a mere human? She believed this existence was not merely latent within his memories but actually alive within him. Otherwise, it couldn't have such an impact even on the spiritual realm. Her words were met with no response. Fwoosh. The black flames simply kept devouring the space itself as if trying to engulf even her. The nine-tailed golden fox then roared and unleashed her demonic energy. You think you can do anything to me? A dazzling golden demonic energy gushed out from her, who had transformed into her true form. That golden demonic energy collided with the black flames, clashing. Swoosh. Her golden demonic energy, which had reached its peak, forcefully pushed back the black flames that tried to devour her, exuding the majesty of a great spiritual beast known as one of the 6 demons. Although weakened by the seal, even the assassin king of the sea, the restraining badger celestial dog couldn't withstand her. Instead she pushed back the black flames and tried to glimpse more of the memory fragments. You're just trapped within a human, yet you think you can challenge me. As the nine-tailed golden fox further intensified her demonic energy, the black flames fluctuated. The corners of her mouth in her true form curled up. Whatever was inside this bastard, did it think it could match her who had accumulated demonic energy for thousands of years since ancient times? Reveal your identity right now. Thud. At that very moment the nine-tailed golden fox's golden pupils trembled. This wasn't due to the battle unfolding within his mind. At some point her consciousness had split in two, allowing her to simultaneously view the memories and reality. In reality, the nine-tailed golden fox had her hand placed on Mok Jaeungun's head, maintaining the state of entering his mind. However, Mok Jaeungun, who should have been unable to move with his mind suppressed, moved. He only moved once, but the stimulation there was so intense that her focus couldn't help but be divided. The nine-tailed golden fox looked at Mok Jae-un's face. This is... Mok Jae-un's dilated, hazy eyes had regained vitality. But along with that vitality something had changed. His pupils had turned entirely black, resembling lustrous obsidian, and those eyes held a viciousness akin to the black flames. Is it you who were trapped within the wall of memories that have taken over that body? So, by stimulating the physical body in reality, you intend to drive me out. As if I would be so easily. Thud. Hack. At that moment Mok Jae-un's lower body moved roughly. Simultaneously the nine-tailed golden fox unknowingly let out a moan. The nine-tailed golden fox glared at Mok Jae-un with trembling breaths. Ha ha you. Thud. Hyuk. With a single movement of Mok Jae-un's waist, her mind seemed to scatter from the excitement. Perhaps because of that, the force of the black flames, which had been pushed back by the golden demonic energy within his mind, suddenly intensified. The nine-tailed golden fox's golden pupils trembled. Her transformation technique had already been undone, reverting her to her original appearance, yet he was making such rough movements against her, indicating that it wasn't his original self. It was the ferocious and vicious self within those black flames. Thud. She tried to push Mok Jae-un's body away. Simply touching or doing something like that was one thing, but if he stimulated her so roughly her mind would scatter in the power struggle with the black flames. Thud. Ack. At that instant the nine-tailed golden fox's slender back arched like a bow. Her head tilted back and her breathing grew ragged. What is this? Sizzle. Amidst the power struggle within his mind and the exciting stimulation, she had failed to notice that her demonic energy was being absorbed by Mok Jae-un's hand grasping her chest. Simultaneously, the black flames within his mind not only regained momentum but also expanded, pushing back the golden demonic energy. This is disadvantageous. With him pressuring her from three directions, mind, stimulation and absorption, it would become difficult for her to confront him no matter how powerful she was. The speed at which her demonic energy was being absorbed was also accelerating. In the end, she judged that it was impossible to immediately see his fundamental memories. Thus, swish. She withdrew the spiritual body that had assimilated into him. Then she grabbed Mok Jae-un's cheeks and pulled him in for a kiss. Their tongues softly intertwined and tangled as her demonic energy flowed through Mok Jae-un's mouth, spreading to his head and entire body. With that sizzle, Mok Jae-un's eyes, which had turned black like obsidian, returned to normal. Mok Jae-un, who had regained his senses, furrowed his brows. After all, he had become one with the nine-tailed golden fox. He didn't expect to be kissing her as well. Thud. Mok Jae-un forcibly separated from her. She licked her lips as if savoring them, then grinned and spoke. Have you regained your senses, dear? Dear. We're already so passionately entangled, so it's okay to call you that, right? Or should I call you something else? Grip. Ignoring her words, Mok Jae-un tried to detach his body from hers. However, he couldn't do so because she was embracing him with her legs. He tried to draw upon his demonic energy, but she clung even tighter to him and whispered meaningfully into his ear. I thought about calling you Jong, but that doesn't suit you either. Mok Jae-un's eyes sharpened. Regardless, she hugged Mok Jae-un tightly and spoke. I'm not sure about the throne, but you might be the very human embodiment of a demon that I've been searching for. Yes. The title that truly suits you is none other than Demon. Chapter 252, Demon 2. I'm not sure about the throne, but you might be the very human embodiment of a demon that I've been searching for. Yes. The title that truly suits you is none other than Demon. Demon. Mok Jae-un couldn't make sense of the nine-tailed golden fox's words. His focus was solely on the fact that she knew his real name, Jong. What did she do? Even if his mind had been hazy, the chances of him uttering it himself were low. But if she mentioned Jong, then... Did she see my memories? There was no other explanation. Meanwhile, the nine-tailed golden fox caressed Mok Jae-un's cheek and spoke. How is it? The title, Demon, sounds good, right? Just calling you Demon is a bit dull, so should I add something like a surname in front of it? Falling from the sky. Before she could finish her sentence, Mok Jae-un cut her off and asked. Did you look into my memories? Oh my. You're quick-witted. Well, not all of them, but I'd say a part of them. At her words, Mok Jae-un's eyes turned cold. He felt displeasure at the fact that she had pried into his memories, regardless of anything else. And judging by the current situation, she had forcibly engaged in relations with him. Or rather, they were still in the midst of it. Squeeze. The nine-tailed golden fox wrapped her legs tighter around him and spoke with a flushed face. Hey. Since we've already started, shouldn't we finish it? Mok Jae-un didn't respond to her words. At this rate, he would be dragged along by this fox demon's intentions no matter what. Then whether it turned out good or bad, he had to do something. Thus, Mok Jae-un tried to gather all the remaining demonic energy within his body to somehow resist. Mok Jae-un's eyes flickered with surprise. My demonic energy has recovered. No, it has increased. The demonic energy within his body had nearly doubled compared to its original amount. It was a phenomenon he couldn't comprehend at all. His injuries were quite severe and he had even lost consciousness, so why had his demonic energy increased to this extent? But that wasn't the end of it. Moreover, a vast amount of demonic energy had been absorbed into his body. It was incomparably greater than what he had absorbed from the monstrous raccoon, the King Slayer, and the purity of the demonic energy was exceptionally high. It's difficult to assimilate. The demonic energy was so immense that even if he tried to assimilate it, there would be excess remaining. Instead, continuously keeping it within his body might even become poisonous. The corners of Mok Jae-un's mouth twitched. In that case, there was a way to utilize this pure and vast demonic energy. Mok Jae-un then closed his eyes. At that moment, the nine-tailed golden fox spoke in a seductive and alluring voice. What? You don't like this form? Or do you want me to take on that vengeful spirit's appearance like before? Swish. As soon as those words ended, the nine-tailed golden fox swept her face with her hand and used her transformation technique. In an instant, her face changed to resemble Chong Ryung's. Mortal. Even her voice became identical. The nine-tailed golden fox, transformed into Chong Ryung, swayed her hips and whispered into Mok Jae-un's ear. Mortal, open your eyes. Flinch. At that moment, the nine-tailed golden fox's eyes turned sharp as she looked at Mok Jae-un's right hand. Crackle. Crunch. With Mok Jae-un's right hand as the center, his entire arm bulged with vast demonic energy, and his blood vessels protruded before turning pitch black. Seeing this scene, the nine-tailed golden fox inwardly felt it was absurd. This demonic energy. It was her own demonic energy. Although it had been absorbed by him, demonic energy was essentially like a deadly poison to humans, so she thought it would be difficult for him to immediately assimilate and use it. But he was using this demonic energy without assimilating it? Is this guy for real? He didn't seem human. Apart from the existence trapped within his mind, this body was definitely human. But she didn't expect something like this to be possible. The nine-tailed golden fox's gaze then shifted to Mok Jae-un's neck. If she moved her tails and twisted his neck right away, she could dispose of him before he could even unleash the demonic energy. However, if this fellow was truly the human embodiment of a demon that Kang Sang had prophesied about, killing him would be no different from losing him before he could accomplish anything. Tisk. In the end, the nine-tailed golden fox released her legs that were wrapped around him and used her tail to grab Mok Jae-un, throwing him towards the floor. Crash. Mok Jae-un's body pierced through the floor and sank deep into it. Sigh. With the amount of demonic energy he had gathered now, he could inflict damage on her as well, so the only answer was to make him lose consciousness. The nine-tailed golden fox clicked her tongue as if she was disappointed. She thought she could finally satisfy her desires after a long time, but it seemed unlikely at the moment. Well, it doesn't matter. She could just keep him with her and entice him. If he was already wicked, there was no need to corrupt him further. Wouldn't it be perfect if she just made him hers? Just as she was thinking that. Pack. The nine-tailed golden fox hurriedly crossed four of her tails like a shield to block the front. At the same time, a black line brushed past and then, kaboom. Ugh. The nine-tailed golden fox's body pierced through the ceiling of Prince Jeongjin's residence and soared upwards. Through the hole that was made, someone fell and landed on the floor of the residence. Tap. The one who landed was none other than Mok Jae-un. Drip. Drip. Blood was flowing from his black and grotesquely transformed right arm. Mok Jae-eun looked at his right arm and exhaled roughly. Hugh. As a side effect of amplifying the demonic energy absorbed from the nine-tailed golden fox using the reversing blood technique, the blood vessels in his right arm had ruptured. It had definitely exceeded the level he could handle without assimilation. However, although it was only for a single strike, he had used the nine-tailed golden fox's demonic energy itself to unify his sword energy, so its power was immeasurable. Mortal. At that moment, the translucent form of Chong Ryong approached Mok Jae-eun. Looking at his right arm, which was a bloody mess, she asked with concern. Are you all right? Well, I think I'll be fine, won't I? Where do you get such words from? Your hand and arm. Chong Ryong clicked her tongue as she looked at it. The tremendous demonic energy contained in Mok Jae-eun's previous strike was enough to astonish even her. It was probably the energy he had absorbed from the nine-tailed golden fox. Since he tried to handle such immense energy, even if only temporarily, it was only natural for his hand and arm to end up in this state. Mok Jae-eun approached Chong Ryong, disregarding his limp right arm. Swish. Chong Ryong turned her head with a perplexed expression. After all, Mok Jae-eun was currently naked. Moreover, his masculinity was still quite prominent, making it difficult for her to look at him directly. Why are you acting like this? Right now. Your state. Seeing Chong Ryong unable to form proper sentences, Mok Jae-eun finally recognized his own state. Ah. With that, Mok Jae-eun extended his left hand towards the left side of the residence. Several of Prince Jaeongjin's outer garments were hanging there. There were no pants in sight, but he used the sleeves as a belt to cover his lower body. After confirming this with a glance, Chong Ryong turned her head halfway and spoke in a blunt tone. You're like a beast in heat. At those words, Mok Jae-eun closed his mouth. Normally, he would have answered without much thought, but the memory of engaging in relations with the nine-tailed golden fox, who had transformed into Chong Ryong, right in front of the real Chong Ryong, faintly resurfaced. Even though he had fallen victim to the nine-tailed golden fox's technique, thinking that he had done such a thing in front of the person involved made him feel strange. Could it be that Chong Ryong was also acting this way because of that? After remaining silent for a moment, Mok Jae-eun asked her. Are you displeased? Displeased? Yes. What would I be displeased about? I'm a dead spirit anyway. What concern is it of mine if you engage in relations or make a mess with any wench? Despite claiming to be unaffected, her voice had risen quite a bit. She even showed signs of stammering. At this, Mok Jae-eun bluntly said. Even so, that fox demon transformed into your appearance, making it seem like I did it with you. So I thought maybe. Enough. Chong Ryong urged Mok Jae-eun to stop speaking. She was already on the verge of going crazy with that scene constantly swirling in her mind. As she had just said, she kept reminding herself that she was already dead and that her only purpose remaining in this world was to resolve her lingering resentment. But her heart didn't quite agree with that. Damn it. Every time that scene came to mind, she couldn't help but be conscious of Mok Jae-eun. Her reason understood that the nine-tailed golden fox had done it to disrupt Mok Jae-eun's mind, but looking at it the other way around, it was like that. She had been watching him continuously, but he didn't treat women as women. So when he was said to have engaged with that third mortal of the Heaven and Earth Society's leader, Yu So-yun, who resembled her, she had only considered it as him using her. What the hell is this? But this time the situation was a bit different. Why did he react only when she transformed into her appearance after enduring so well? Thinking about this, she couldn't help but be concerned, even while claiming to be a vengeful spirit. It was as if this mortal fellow. Could it be that he sees me as a woman? Chong Ryong, who had been clutching her head, glanced at Mok Jae-eun. Even after what had just happened, this guy was looking at her with the same eyes as usual. Seeing this, she started to feel angry. Wasn't she making a fuss and being self-conscious all by herself? Her mood was becoming unstable and uncontrollable. Just then, swish. At that moment she felt a touch on her head. The only one who could directly make a spirit body feel a sensation was Mok Jae-eun. The moment she felt Mok Jae-eun's gentle touch, Chong Ryong's cheeks turned bright red despite being a spirit body, and she shouted in a flustered manner while covering her body. Don't touch me. What am I supposed to do if I don't touch you? What? At those words, Chong Ryong's eyes widened. What the hell was this guy saying now? Truly bewildered, Chong Ryong covered herself even more and backed away, saying, Are you really a beast? Like a fox, no, a raccoon. Anyway, now that you've done it with that wicked beast, do you want to do it with a vengeful spirit too, regardless of whether they're dead or alive? You're so desperate to satisfy your desires. What are you talking about? What do you mean, what am I talking about? You to me. If you stay in that state, your spirit body will scatter and disappear, won't it? Huh. I'm trying to share the demonic energy I've absorbed with you, but it seems like you've misunderstood something. At that moment, she couldn't hide her embarrassment. Mok Jae-eun shrugged his shoulders at her and approached her, extending his hand and asking, I should have asked beforehand. Is it okay if I transfer the demonic energy to you? In response to Mok Jae-eun's question, Chong Ryong quietly nodded her head without being able to meet his eyes. If her spirit body hadn't been weakened, she would have wanted to find a mouse hole and crawl into it right away. The corners of Mok Jae-eun's mouth twitched as he watched her. Then he placed his hand on her spirit body and tried to infuse the absorbed demonic energy. But at that very moment, tap, someone gently descended through the ceiling. It was none other than the nine-tailed golden fox. Oh no! Mok Jae-eun pushed Chong Ryong's spirit body behind him and drew upon his demonic energy. He had gathered that immense demonic energy into a single point and imbued it into his sword energy to launch an attack, but he didn't expect her to withstand it. She was almost unscathed. The only difference was that a part of one of her tails had been cut off. Even then, it was only the tip of her tail that had been sliced off. Just a part of her tail, huh? She was truly a being of a different caliber, befitting the title of one of the 6 demons and a great spiritual beast close to a divine beast. He wasn't a match for her from the beginning. As the atmosphere grew heavy and the tension reached its peak, smack, the nine-tailed golden fox, who had a murderous expression on her face, casually tossed the severed part of her tail and opened her mouth. For a moment I thought about just killing you, but let's stop here. Chapter 253, Demon 3. Just a moment ago. Swoosh. A sharp sword strike that unified demonic energy and swordsmanship. The nine-tailed golden fox, pushed back by it, was forced up to a height of nearly 100 jang. The sword energy itself was much sharper than before, but with her own demonic energy directly added to it, its power was so strong that she had to use 4 tails simultaneously to counter it. Swish. Pushed back into the air like that, she stopped midway. As if she had wings, she floated and clicked her tongue in disbelief. Using my demonic energy to target me? This brat is truly troublesome. In her thousands of years of life, it wasn't as if there had never been those who threatened her. But almost all of them were beings called sages or wicked beasts close to divine beasts like herself. The nine-tailed golden fox's eyes narrowed. Is it the influence of that being trapped within his mind? It didn't matter what it was. This brat was close to being a human who embodied the very essence of a demon, which she had been searching for all this time. Sting. At that moment, the nine-tailed golden fox frowned. After all, even though she thought she had blocked it properly, the tip of her tail had been nearly severed and was dangling loosely. Ha! In an instant, her eyes turned murderous. Not anywhere else, but he had sliced off a part, albeit a small one, of her tail, which was a concentration of her demonic energy. Her tail was a body part that angered her even if it was just scratched. But now that it had been cut, the nine-tailed golden fox's rage surged. Should I kill him? For a moment, even murderous intent arose within her. However, she quickly suppressed it. Endure it. If I kill him here, I won't know if he will become the existence that Kong Sang spoke of. She licked the dangling, severed part of her tail with her tongue. The blood from the wound quickly stopped. The nine-tailed golden fox completely tore off the severed portion of her tail. Then her lips twitched. Come to think of it, for a young human who hasn't even lived for 20 years to already possess this much power, the possibility is indeed the highest. This fellow would grow stronger at a rapid pace. Then her desire might be fulfilled before long. Keeping him by my side and continuously watching over. As she was thinking that, something flashed through her mind. It was because of something she had seen in Mok Jae-eun's memories. Moreover, upon further thought, this fellow not only had exceptional innate talent but was also rapidly growing stronger due to his thirst for revenge. That meant there was a chance he might not become the form she desired even if she kept him by her side. Besides, he was already immensely evil from the beginning even without being corrupted. Finally reaching a conclusion, the nine-tailed golden fox licked her lips. What a pity. She wanted to keep him by her side and enjoy him, but it seemed she would have to put that on hold. For a moment I thought about just killing you, but let's stop here. Mok Jung-un, who had raised his guard to the extreme, looked at the nine-tailed golden fox with incomprehensible eyes. Chongrong was the same. The nine-tailed golden fox, the 100-faced king, was a great spiritual beast close to a divine beast. If she desired, it was not only possible for her, who was called a moving calamity, to kill them but also turn this entire imperial capital into a sea of blood. To her, all of this was merely a form of amusement. That's how absolute the nine-tailed golden fox's power was. So when she suddenly suggested stopping as if on a whim, they couldn't help but feel puzzled. At that moment the nine-tailed golden fox shrugged her shoulders and spoke. I was thinking of making you my plaything right away, but it seems unwise to pluck an unripe fruit. What do you mean? It's exactly as I said. I'm saying I'll leave you alone for the time being. Leave me alone? Yes. The nine-tailed golden fox glanced at the severed part of her tail and said, You're quite sharp to be able to cut my tail, but that's still far from enough. You mean to kill you? At Mok Jung-un's words, the nine-tailed golden fox burst into laughter, holding her stomach. Kill me? Even using my demonic energy, you barely managed to slice off the tip of my tail, so isn't that too greedy of you? Mok Jung-un remained silent at her words. There was indeed a huge gap between the nine-tailed golden fox's power and his own. To her he was probably nothing more than an insect at best. Since he was no match for her anyway, if she showed mercy even if it was on a whim, he should gratefully accept it. However, the words the nine-tailed golden fox had said lingered in his mind. I'll leave you alone for the time being. It sounded like she would let him go for now but would continue to target him. No, somehow it seemed like she would. Why? He couldn't understand why she was coveting him. You might be the very human embodiment of a demon that I've been searching for. Although she had said those words, he couldn't fully comprehend their meaning either. Meanwhile, the nine-tailed golden fox lightly gestured, and the clothing that had been pushed into the corner of Prince Gyeongjin's residence flew over and put itself on her. Swish. With just a single gesture, her hair and pupils turned black again. With this, she had once again become Consort Ho, who boasted a radiant beauty. Mok Jung-un picked up the severed part of her tail that had fallen to the floor and held it out to her. Take it with you. At those words, Consort Ho smiled and said, I'm giving that to you. Giving it to me? Yes. Keep that well. I don't have a preference for carrying around such things. It would be good to carry it around. It will serve as proof that I've taken a liking to you. But is it because it's bothersome to carry it like that? Then, swish. Consort Ho lightly waved her hand. The severed part of her tail transformed into a round medallion with golden fur attached to it. Isn't it convenient to carry it like this? If it's proof that you've taken a liking to me, it's even more uncomfortable to carry around. You're quite honest. But there's no harm in carrying that around. From what I've seen, you seem to get entangled with quite a few wicked beasts. It was difficult to deny those words. At some point, vengeful spirits and wicked beasts had started to get involved with him frequently. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say it had been since his eyes had opened. So keep it with you. Even if it's just a part of my tail, carrying it will prevent you from getting entangled with bothersome things. Even if it was a severed part of her body, traces and remnants of her demonic energy remained. If he possessed a part of her, known as the 100-faced king, ordinary wicked beasts wouldn't be able to approach him, and even those with a certain level of power would naturally stay away from him. And if you have that, I can find you wherever you go. The nine-tailed golden fox inwardly smirked. Even if she didn't keep him by her side with this method, she could meet him whenever she wanted. No matter how high-ranking a great spiritual beast was, if they deliberately hid in this vast Central Plains continent, it would be difficult to find them. Silently holding the medallion made from her tail, Mok Jung-un eventually put it inside his clothes. It wasn't because he accepted it out of genuine gratitude, but also because there was no benefit in provoking the nine-tailed golden fox at the moment. And if worse came to worst, he could just leave the imperial palace later. As if reading Mok Jae-un's true intentions, the nine-tailed golden fox smiled and said, "If you get caught trying to discard it, be prepared to face the consequences." Understood. At her words, Mok Jae-un showed an annoyed expression. Regardless, the nine-tailed golden fox turned around without any lingering attachment, as if her business was done, and tried to leave Prince Jaeongjan's residence. Is she really just leaving? Seeing this, Chong Ryong inwardly tried to feel relieved. But then the nine-tailed golden fox stopped for a moment and spoke as if she had forgotten something. "Ah, right. I put the embroidered uniform guards and the capital's guards outside to sleep. But can you handle the matters inside here on your own?" At that question, Mok Jae-un glanced at the unconscious Prince Jaeongjan and the beheaded corpse of the Western Depot's chief eunuch, Eunuch Ho. If Eunuch Ho had escalated the situation, it would have been different, but now that he was dead, they could handle it according to the original plan. However, just in case, he asked, "If I say I can't handle it, will you help?" "No." "Then why did you ask?" "Just because. You're not so stupid that you can't even handle this much." She had no intention of helping from the beginning. Since he didn't have much expectation, Mok Jae-un wasn't too disappointed. But then the nine-tailed golden fox chuckled and said something unexpected as she left. "That mark you were looking for. I think I've seen it somewhere." Mok Jae-un's eyes widened in an instant. It was a sudden remark, but since the nine-tailed golden fox had stolen a glimpse of his memories, he could immediately understand what those words meant. Although he had shown a calm and cold demeanor towards other things, at the mention of the mark, Mok Jae-un's eyes fiercely transformed. "What do you mean by that? You understood, didn't you? Did you see it in my memories?" "That's right. I'm talking about the scar left on your dead grandfather's body. I've seen that somewhere." As soon as those words ended, swish. Using the foot technique, Mok Jae-un instantly blocked the nine-tailed golden fox's path and spoke in a cold tone. "Where did you see it?" She grinned and said, "Why are you curious? I'd be grateful if you could tell me. Gratitude alone isn't enough." As if slowly increasing the dosage, the nine-tailed golden fox put her hands behind her back and circled around Mok Jae-un. Looking at her, Mok Jae-un finally spoke. "What do you want?" At that question, the nine-tailed golden fox licked her finger stickily and said, "Do you want to finish what we couldn't do earlier? If you satisfy me right here, I might tell you. Is that what you want?" "Yes." "Then right now." Suddenly, Mok Jae-un couldn't finish his sentence and unconsciously glanced behind him. He saw Chong Ryong looking at him with a subtle gaze. Seeing that gaze, Mok Jae-un couldn't continue his words. If it was related to the mark left on his dead grandfather's body, he would stop at nothing to find clues. He hesitated even though he could obtain information just by engaging in relations once. Mok Jae-un questioned his own attitude. Why was he being conscious of Chong Ryong? He couldn't understand it at all. Then Mok Jae-un finally opened his mouth. "Let's forget about it." "What?" One of the nine-tailed golden fox's beautiful eyebrows rose. On the other hand, Chong Ryong's pupils, who had been looking at Mok Jae-un with a somewhat anxious gaze, flickered with surprise. Why? She could understand it because it was a matter involving an important clue, but for some reason she had been feeling bitter. But at Mok Jae-un's unexpected refusal, her mood became strange. Tisk. The nine-tailed golden fox clicked her tongue with an incredulous expression and said, "This hurts my pride." "What?" "In all my life I've been rejected because of a mere vengeful spirit." "What are you talking about?" "Never mind. I've lost all desire to do it anyway." "Humph." With those words, the nine-tailed golden fox stomped her feet angrily and left Prince Jaeongjan's residence. Mok Jae-un momentarily thought about stopping her but eventually lowered his slightly raised hand. Since he had already given up himself, what good would it do to stop her? He didn't dwell on things that had already ended, so Mok Jae-un also turned around to go to where Chong Ryong was. But then a voice was heard. "Among the embroidered uniform guards in the inner court, there is someone with that mark." It was the nine-tailed golden fox's voice. Mok Jae-un looked at the door she had left through with puzzled eyes. Then through the half-closed door she poked her head out and said, "I was about to leave, but just this once I'm making a special concession. The medallion I gave you made from my tail. Never take it off your body." "I won't." That wasn't difficult at all. At Mok Jaeongun's answer, the nine-tailed golden fox snorted and closed the door with these words. Humph. See you again. Heavenly Demon. Chapter 254, The Mark 1. Humph. See you again. Heavenly Demon. Thud. After the door closed, Mok Jaeongun frowned. Then Chong Ryong asked with a puzzled expression. Heavenly Demon. Why is the nine-tailed golden fox calling you that? Who knows? He remembered that the nine-tailed golden fox said she would call him that because he was the embodiment of a demon itself. But as for why she added the character for heaven in front. How is it? The title, Demon, sounds good, right? Just calling you Demon is a bit dull, so should I add something like a surname in front of it? Falling from the sky. Suddenly, the words she had said flashed through Mok Jaeongun's mind. Although he had interrupted her midway, she had abruptly mentioned something about falling from the sky. What the hell did that mean? Throb. At that moment, a strong pain was felt from the top of his head, the Baihui acupoint. Mok Jaeongun covered his head with his hand. If it had been a mild headache, he would have ignored it and moved on, but it was an intense pain that momentarily turned his vision white and made it difficult to stand. Mortal. As Mok Jaeongun stumbled, Chong Ryong hurriedly approached to support him. However, with her spirit body having become hazy, she couldn't grab hold of Mok Jaeongun of her own volition. Swish. Mok Jaeongun, who had brushed past her hand, knelt down on one knee. Mortal. Are you all right? Mortal. At her worried voice, Mok Jaeongun reached out his hand and said, I'm fine. Throb. Before he could finish his sentence, the pain intensified as if his pulse was throbbing. At that moment, a scene he had never seen before suddenly flashed through Mok Jaeongun's mind. It was swoosh. The sight of himself falling from an extremely high altitude towards the ground. The height was so great that even the mountain ranges on the ground appeared small. What the hell was this? Why was a scene he had never experienced before appearing like a past memory? That wasn't the end of it. Throb. As that scene disappeared, another scene appeared. It was a scene of his deceased grandfather looking at him and bowing down as if he had felt some sort of thrill and was unable to hide his shock. Why on earth? It was a face of his grandfather that he had never seen before. Why was he prostrating himself towards him with that expression? Just as he was puzzled. Mortal. Chong Ryong's voice rang in his ears, and the scenes of memories that had seemed to vividly unfold before his eyes were abruptly cut off. At the same time, the headache that had felt like his head was about to burst also subsided. Mortal? Why are you acting like this? Did you injure your head? Mok Jaeongun, who had been in a daze, raised his head and looked at Chong Ryong. Her face, which was looking at him with worried eyes, had changed a lot since they first met. If in the past it felt like she was concerned about disappearing together with him if he died, now it felt like she genuinely cared about his well-being. A different expression. A person cannot remain the same towards others. That much was evident just by looking at his grandfather's face in his memories. What exactly was that just now? Why did it suddenly feel like something he had never experienced before? No, was it really a memory he had never experienced? Strange. Come to think of it, it felt like a part of his memory had been cut out and he couldn't remember anything prior to a certain point. Then, could that just now have been a part of those missing memories? As he was lost in thought, Chong Ryong's voice was heard. Mortal. It seems to be because of the absorbed demonic energy. Perform breathing exercises right away. Breathing exercises? Yes. No matter how strong you are, unassimilated demonic energy is no different from poison. So it would be better to assimilate the demonic energy first. At Chong Ryong's words, Mok Jaeongun's eyes flickered with surprise. She was also in a precarious state at the moment. Her spiritual power was continuously dispersing, and at this rate she could even vanish, but seeing her prioritize him first gave him a strange feeling. Before that, let me give you the demonic energy first. There's no need for that. Right now your condition is worse. No. Giving you the demonic energy won't take that long, right? Swish. With those words, Mok Jaeongun placed his palm towards Chong Ryong's spirit body's head. And he sent a portion of the nine-tailed golden fox's demonic energy that remained in his body. The moment the demonic energy entered through her spirit body's head, Chong Ryong's pupils trembled. She had been astonished by the high purity of the Kingslayer's demonic energy when she received it as well. But this was incomparably superior to that. The moment it entered, it felt as if her eyes were opening wide and she was undergoing an awakening. This highly pure and vast demonic energy grasped her dispersing spirit body once again and made its translucency dense once more. Should do it first. Even if I assimilate the demonic energy, it will take quite some time. So let's assimilate it together. And once we finish assimilating it, things will probably get quite busy. If the nine-tailed golden fox's words were true, then among the embroidered uniform guards, there was someone with that scar, the mark that had been left on his deceased grandfather's body. That person would also possess some sort of clue, so they had to find them. The next day, in the dark of night when everyone was asleep, in one of the embroidered uniform guards' offices, someone with a covered face secretly entered the unlit place. It was none other than Mong Muyak. Just as the information said. Through the spies infiltrated in the imperial palace, he had learned that the judicial department's office would be empty around this time. Thus he had waited for an opportunity and sneaked in at night. On the surface, it was an ordinary office with display shelves, bookshelves, and a desk. However, from the outside, this office should be slightly larger in size. That means there must be a hidden space. Tap, tap. Mong Muyak touched the bookshelf attached to the wall here and there. Then, the moment he pulled out a book, click, the bookshelf slightly shifted to the side. Found it. Grabbing the gap that had opened up, Mong Muyak pushed the bookshelf, and it slid open like a door. Along with it, the space hidden inside was revealed. The enclosed dark room was dim, so Mong Muyak took a lantern from the desk and lit the candle inside. Ah! The interior became visible under the lantern's light. There were hidden ledgers, numerous books, and a locked safe. After quickly scanning through them, Mong Muyak approached the bookshelf. There wasn't much time, so he had to hurry before the night shift change occurred. Let's see. Mong Muyak pulled out the untitled books one by one and examined their contents. These are secret ledgers. He had heard that there were quite a few rotten parts within the embroidered uniform guards, but to think they had blatantly created secret ledgers like this. They might think it's better not to leave such things behind in the first place, but the more corrupt they are, the more meticulous they tend to be. Ledgers are necessary for future countermeasures. Incompetent individuals tend to do things haphazardly, but those who prepare for contingencies diligently keep records and ledgers in case of unforeseen circumstances. After carefully examining the secret ledgers, Mong Muyak clicked his tongue and pocketed them. They might come in handy if need be. The item he was looking for wasn't among the books on the shelf. In that case, it seemed to be in the safe. Mong Muyak took out a thin copper wire from his pocket and inserted it into the lock. Then he skillfully picked it. Click. Done. Creak. When he opened the safe, there were quite a few items inside. From valuable stolen goods to various other things, but he didn't need any of them. What he truly needed was only one thing. Among the various books in the safe, it was... Found it. The underground prison registry. He had previously used spies to identify the safe movement routes at different times to find this. And finally, he had found what he wanted. Now we can know the location. To accomplish the secret order they had received, they first needed to find out where that person was imprisoned in the underground prison. The underground prison was so vast in scale and heavily guarded with traps and sentries that if they didn't know the location and the prison's routes beforehand, they might fail in the rescue attempt. Let's see. Russell. The underground prison registry listed the locations and names of the cell blocks where the prisoners were held. As expected of a place known to hold only vicious and notorious prisoners, Mong Muyak, who was also from the Heaven and Earth Society, recognized quite a few names. However, the name he was searching for was nowhere to be found. This is troublesome. Could it be that he's not imprisoned here? After flipping through for a while, he reached the registry of the lowest level of the underground prison, the Inescapable Prison. According to the spies, the individuals imprisoned in the Inescapable Prison were those deemed the worst by the Imperial Palace, and even their identities were strictly managed. Therefore, the security of the Inescapable Prison was said to be incomparable to the other levels. This will be difficult. Clicking his tongue, Mong Muyak flipped through the Inescapable Prison's registry. Russell. The number of pages wasn't very large. But the moment he turned the first page, Mong Muyak's eyes widened. The Red Turban Rebellion's deputy leader is still alive? He had heard that about 30 years ago, a great famine occurred and uprisings broke out in various parts of the country. The ones leading it were the Red Turban Rebellion's leader Yi Jik and deputy leader Yi Bek, and the number of government troops they had killed reached a staggering 100,000. The leader Yi Jik was known to have been captured at that time when the left and right governors' armies were mobilized. The price of rebellion was, of course, having one's limbs torn apart in front of the people. At that time he thought the deputy leader Yi Bek had also died, but his name was brazenly listed here. A big shot right from the first page. After flipping a few pages, astonishing names appeared in abundance. Each and every one of them was the worst kind of prisoner, and it was impossible to know what would happen if they were released. He didn't understand why they kept such individuals alive. If it were the Heaven and Earth Society, they would have killed them from the beginning to prevent future troubles. Mong Muyak, who had been continuously turning the pages, stopped midway. In the latter half, there was a list of individuals labeled as martial artists. There were martial artists too? Although there were occasional martial artists included in the registries of the first to third levels of the underground prison, he didn't expect there to be martial artists in the inescapable prison as well. Who could be imprisoned as a martial artist deemed the worst by the imperial palace? Out of curiosity, Mong Muyak flipped through the list. I've never heard of any of them before. Even he, a member of the Heaven and Earth Society's leader's direct information department, didn't recognize most of the names. Could it be because they were old and hardly any information remained about them? Just as he was puzzled, Mong Muyak's eyes widened. Number 126, Old Blood Cult, 6th Blood Saint. Seeing the entry, Mong Muyak couldn't hide his astonishment. Although it was an organization that no longer existed in the current martial arts world, it was notorious enough to be passed down through word of mouth, so he was also aware of it. That was because the remnants of the Old Blood sect, which was said to have been destroyed long ago, and some of the evil faction had gathered to establish the Four Evils Alliance, which was now considered the center of the evil faction. To think there were traces of the Old Blood sect remaining. But what was even more interesting here was the note written below. Unlike the other entries that merely described the information, this person's entry had a warning that seemed like an instruction, written in a fluttering manner. Keep a distance of 10 steps. When delivering meals through the prison's mechanism, cover the eyes and ears. Mong Muyak frowned. Why did they warn not to approach within 10 steps even though he was imprisoned in the prison? The next warning instruction was also strange. Surely, if one was imprisoned in the prison, their martial arts would have been disabled or sealed, so why were they issuing such a strong warning? Mong Muyak, who had been puzzled, flipped the page. Although the warning itself was quite unsettling, it wasn't the person they were looking for anyway, so it wasn't his concern. Russell. After flipping a few pages, there were only 2 left. With only 3 pages remaining, Mong Muyak became inwardly anxious. If the name wasn't even on these pages, it would be as if that person wasn't in the underground prison, contrary to the information they had obtained. Russell. He turned another page like that, but... The page before the last one was somewhat strange. Usually, the entries listed the prison cell number, who was imprisoned there, and a brief description of that person's identity. However, the last entry only stated that it was prisoner number 129 and strictly warned not to approach within 30 steps of the prison cell. Do not approach? It was farther than the person from the Old Blood sect's 6 Blood Star. Moreover, there was an even more incomprehensible strong warning written afterward. If someone enters within 30 steps, never attempt a rescue? What the hell does this mean? Do not attempt a rescue? What did this imply? Mong Muyak, who couldn't understand it at all, shook his head since this person was also irrelevant to them, and then turned the page towards the last one. And seeing the name written on the registry, Mong Muyak's eyes lit up with joy. Number 130, Fire Faith Order. Holy Fire Spiritual Lord. He had finally found it. The last page was particularly clean, indicating that this person had entered relatively recently. However, unlike the previous individuals, instead of a warning, a completely different instruction was written in a sentence. Find the location of the Holy Fire Spirit Orb. What does this mean? Holy Fire Spirit Orb? He couldn't understand why it was written to find its location. Just then, Hey, why are you sleeping? At the sound of a voice coming from outside the office along with the presence of people, Mong Muyak quickly closed the safe's door. If he didn't withdraw, the secured movement route would be disrupted. Fortunately, he had achieved his objective on time. Bong. The bell signaling the ox hour was rung. Within the imperial palace, a bell was rung every 2 hours to indicate the time. Swish. Mong Muyak, who had accomplished his objective, left the office and headed towards the dormitory following the secured route. Since all the shift changes took place centered around the ox hour, this was the optimal time to move when the handover occurred. Mong Muyak, who was moving along the route while suppressing his presence, climbed over a wall. Tap. Now there was only one more wall to climb before reaching the dormitory. Mong Muyak, who had been stealthily walking through the darkness, was just about to leap over the final wall at that moment. Thud. At that instant, someone grabbed his ankle as he was about to jump. Startled, Mong Muyak was taken aback and tried to kick the opponent who had grabbed his ankle using leg techniques. Thud. However, the opponent lightly caught his leg technique. Then, pulling on one of his legs, they quickly subdued his acupoints in an instant. Tap 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 tap. The unknown individual caught Mong Muyak's body, which had stiffened and was about to fall, and gently laid him on the ground. Mong Muyak's pupils dilated. That was because the one who had subdued him was none other than a eunuch from the Western Depot. He had barely managed to leave the office undetected, but he didn't expect to be caught by a eunuch from the Western Depot just before reaching the dormitory. Damn it! Judging by the attire, the eunuch seemed to hold a fairly high position. At that moment, the eunuch from the Western Depot smiled and whispered while placing a finger on Mong Muyak's lips. "You're doing a good job even without me." Upon hearing those words, Mong Muyak's eyes widened. The owner of this voice was none other than Lo Lord. It was the voice of his lord, Mok Jiongun, who he had thought was killed at the embroidered uniform guards hall.